Okay, this is part 2 of the Photoshop photo fixing tutorial for beginners. I apologize that the screen looks crooked. I've misplaced my tripod, and so I had to kind of set up the camera as best I could on this. And I seem to get better quality when I record the screen rather than using the screen capture. And since my mouse is pretty small and so forth, I think it'll come out clear this way. Anyway, so I'm not exactly sure where it cut off. I think it cut off during the noise reduction explanation, so we're going to kind of start that over. I just undid my noise reduction. Again, to do noise reduction, you go to Filter, down to Noise, and then scroll over to Reduce Noise. Okay, and then you'll want to make sure these are where you like them according to how it's showing on here. If you don't see any change when you move this around, if it's not changing, then make sure this is clicked, the little preview button. It should by default be, but if it's not, just click that. So it'll show you preview as it goes. So I'm putting, for this instance, it looks like right there is just about right. You put it too high and you'll lose quite a bit of sharpness to the image. You go too low and you won't be able to tell a difference. So that's about right for this photo, I think. So I'll click OK. It'll do the little clock to work out that noise reduction, and it's finished. Looks a little better, a little cleaner. But now, one of the things that noise reduction does is it kind of softens edges just a little bit. And if you know that only a certain area needs to be softened, let's say this area here was really noisy and that's the only part, then you could just select that area, and we'll talk about how to do that in a minute, and then do the noise reduction, and that way it's not doing the entire picture. But in this case, the whole picture needed to be done. So, okay, now we're going to sharpen these edges so that they aren't too soft on the edges. We still want the gradients and so forth to be soft, and so we're going to leave those like that and not just sharpen the whole image, but we're going to select area to sharpen. So you go down to one of these. You can choose one of these circle or square ones to work with, but that's a little bit too much area for me. So if you go just below that circle one, there's a little selection thing called lasso tool. I like to use either lasso tool or polygonal lasso tool. Lasso tool basically allows you to just click and drag the mouse wherever to get the area that you want. So if I'm doing it like that, you can just select it freehand, I guess. And the other one, the polygonal lasso tool, you'll click once and then drag to the next spot. Click again, click again, click again, click again, click again. They're pretty much the same that way, but we'll use the regular lasso tool for now. So that's again this third button down. Okay, so we're going to drag right on the outside of his profile, because that's one of the areas we want nice and crisp. So we're going to drag around the outside and then right on the inside. We don't want to get too far inside, but far enough in that we'll be able to see a difference. Let's even get a little bit of his hair there. It's kind of nice to have sharp. Okay, so we've got this little area here that is selected, or the snake area across his profile. And then we'll go to Filter again. This time we'll go down to Sharpen, and there's a number of sharpen options. The basic sharpen, sometimes that'll do it for you. It's kind of guessing what you're wanting. I like to use the Unsharp Mask simply because it tends to focus on edges rather than the whole thing. So we're going to click on Unsharp Mask. Now, if you can see this little box here, we have another sample area where we're looking at, and it does, most of the time when you make these adjustments, the preview, as long as that preview button's clicked, will show not only in here, which you can also zoom in and out by these two buttons here, but also it generally changes out here also. But if you don't see any change out here, it will for sure at least do it in here. So the amount you'll want to, this really kind of depends on the size of your picture. With a nice medium-sized picture where he's taking up a good chunk of the picture but not filling the frame, I usually like to do somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of the way up. If it's tiny little faces that you're sharpening or tiny little areas, you do it lower like this, but we're going to put it about right there. And then once you set those kind of where you want them, I usually keep those pretty close to together for simplicity's sake. Then you drag this threshold to see how far you want it to look. Now if I drag way over here, so you can't tell any difference at all. Up here, from about here down, you're not going to be able to see any difference. So the closer you get this one to 0, the sharper it's going to be. Now if I go all the way, it may look a little too sharp. It may look a little too fake, contrasty. So I'm gonna put it maybe at about 4. That should be about right. And then we're gonna click OK. It processes that. It's real fast. And then, as you can see, it's still selected, but we don't need it to be, so we can just click away from it. Okay, so there's our picture, and I don't see too much else we need to do. We can touch up a little with the healing brush again if we want to. Again, this is the little thing that looks like a band-aid. Click on that spot healing brush tool. Kind of rub it over areas that are either spots or sometimes wrinkles. You got to be a little careful so you don't make it too fake looking. You don't want to give them plastic surgery. You just want to kind of soften the areas that don't look quite as good on the photo. Let's see how we're doing for time. 7 minutes. Okay, so I think we're pretty close to finished with this one. One thing I forgot to do. Again, when you sharpen images, one of the things in photos that's really good to do is to make sure that the eyes and the mouth are nice and sharp. Now I did the profile, which kind of covered the mouth too, but I didn't do the eyes. So I'm going to do my little lasso tool again, and I'm going to go just over the eye area a little bit, and then I'm going to go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. And as you can see when you look at it close, it is a little soft. It's a little blurry like. And we want to sharpen that up a little bit. Right now this preview is showing at threshold 4. We'll try sharpening a little more. And as you can see, it doesn't make a lot of difference. If it doesn't make much difference, try dragging these two up a little further. And as you can see, that would be too far. And you can see my line pretty bad. And you can either drag them back, or you can try reducing the threshold a little bit. Now, if you notice, this little line just above the fingers there, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it's showing up. You can see the line where I selected. And we don't want that because, obviously, we don't want an extra line there that's not supposed to be there. It's this line right here that's showing up. And so that line is a little bit too hard, and we want to soften that line. Now this is a very important tool to understand right here is how to soften that selection line. Okay, so we're going to go up to Select because you've selected the area, so that's the selection tool. You'll go to Select, and then you'll want to Refine Edge. And what that'll do is that'll pop up this box. And it starts out, if everything is at 0, then that's exactly what you started with. Okay, so there's no change right now. What we want to do is feather this image. Now if I go just a little bit, you can see it's starting to soften up. If I go too far, wow, it just kind of disappears because it's so soft.